So I hope you all are doing good. And so here I have a bunch of most defensive species that I'm going to interact with. I often say that as parents are the most defensive species because according to parents, I am right, do what I say, right? Listen to me. Okay. So here in this interactive session, I will break some of the myths and you will realize what your role as a parent is actually. Okay. So we will be talking about how to enhance your relation with teenagers. How many of you have a teenage daughter or son? Can you raise your hands? Okay. Okay, we have only one. Okay. And those who are interacting with teenagers or even have a daughter or a son who's a teenager, what are your general complaints about your teenager? Can I have it on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Yes, we have a comment in the chat box, ma'am. Not listening to us.
Okay, okay, okay. Anyone else?
Yes, participants, you can interact with ma'am. You can unmute or leave a comment in the chat box. I think they'll need some time, ma'am.
Overthinking.
Yes.
Okay. 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 So, what is parenting according to you?
We have another comment, ma'am. Shaista says that I have a 13-year-old girl back answering, not accepting their mistakes. Ms. Sharda says she feels she's right all the time.
Okay, okay, wonderful. Okay. Anyone else? And also, could you also speak on what parenting is according to you? What do you think? Yeah. So you have, you have these complaints from your teenager that she's not listening to you and they don't accept their mistakes, they're defiant, they're rebellious, they think they're all the time right, they're overthinking, they're not listening. So there are a whole lot of complaints that you have about your teenagers, right? Now, as I asked you, what do you think, what is parenting? You all are parents here, right? So what is your impression or what is your concept of parenting? What does a parent do or what is parenting? You can simply unmute yourself and you can speak up. It's very important for me to know this. Yeah. Yes.
I think it's a roller coaster ride, and every day there is a new learning for us, and every day she brings one new task to us, like to understand something new about them. Mm.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And they may sometimes, just stir up your emotions at times, just trigger you randomly. Yes. Anyone else? What is parenting according to you? It's a very important question and I need to know that. Come on, you all are parents here. I'm sure that this is a bunch of parents that I'm having, right?
I feel the way we are nurturing our children, the way we are inculcating the cultures and values, our morals to them, which we have learned. So they are learning through by watching us also. We are modeling those things for them.
Okay. Yes. So what you have learned from your parents, you're transferring those things onto your children, right? All the cultures, values, and morals, right? I will come to that in my talk. Anyone else? Anyone else who would like to say what parenting is? Okay, so let's move on. When it comes to teenagers, it's a very stressful and Armageddon type situation at home. And you have to handle this phase that is 10 years to 17 years with utmost care. Like, they are fragile and you need to handle them with care. Because either you can, you can maintain them, you can contain them, you can sustain them, or you will break them. Okay? So where they have increased strength, they have their independence, they're capable of thinking on their own, and there are too many conflicts, right? So I wish we really had, we were given the manuals at the time of discharge from the hospital about parenting at different stages. But sadly, parenting doesn't begin with a manual. It contains, parenting contains being triggered, being tested, the patients being tested, a lot of self-regulation involved, like keeping, as parents, we need to keep our emotions in check and following strictly the mantra, practice before preaching, right? So, mental health condition Mental health conditions account for 16% of the global burden of disease and injury in people aged 10 to 19 years. Half of all mental health conditions start by 14 years of age, but most cases are undetected and untreated. That is because of lack of awareness of mental health issues. Because we cannot see them. We are more focused on the physical fitness and physical health, right? Like, since the baby is born, we are more into his, looking after his physical health. Ki khale, like, we just keep feeding him so that he's, we are so conscious about his weight, about his health, whether he's eating properly, whether I am including proper diet, balanced diet in, in his daily meals. So I'm so concerned and worried about his physical fitness and about his diet and so health conscious, right? But am I equally conscious and worried about my child's mental health? It's a very big question, right? We suddenly it comes as a jolt and we realize it when a child starts, you know, starts throwing tantrums, and when we think that things are getting worse and it's getting out of my hand, and it's just getting horrible now. So we then realize that something needs to be done. So globally, depression is one of the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents. Suicide is the fourth leading cause of death in 15 to 19 years old. And the consequence of not addressing adolescent mental health conditions extends to adulthood, impairing both physical and mental health and limiting the opportunities to lead fulfilling lives as adults. Right? So it's a very important thing that we need to understand that mental health issues are only soaring now. We did not hear about mental health issues 10 years back. But now we realize that there is so much of, aggression, so much of rage, so much of instability, so much of emotional dysregulation happening, so much of, a frustration building up in our children now that we have suddenly come to, start talking about mental health, mental health, mental health. We have started giving it importance now, right? Uh, so parenting is a journey of being in a relationship with your child. So we have this traditional paradigm and a progressive paradigm. So this traditional paradigm was about always correcting the child, fixing him as if they were the broken toys, right? And I'm always right. Listen to me. I know more than you. And this was all how we were raised with, right? All of you agree with me? You can, keep commenting on the chat box. Okay. Okay. So we've always been raised up like this. And I want to ask you that the way we were raised up, the values and morals that we were raised with, are they applicable today? Is it? It's not. It's absolutely not. Because we are not ready to let go of our traditional ways. And this is the reason why the mental health issues are on the rise now. Why now? Why it's suddenly on rise now? Because the environment our children are born into has changed. Everything has changed in the last 10 years. Our lifestyle has changed. Our wardrobes have changed. The phones we keep have changed. But we still hold on to that traditional way that was all about correcting and fixing as if the other person is broken and he needs to be mended. You cannot fit a 3-pin into a 2-pin socket. The time now is different. And you also have to change your ways along with the different environment, along with the time that your children are born into. So I want to give you a progressive understanding of child development, where you have your goals of parenting right in front of you. How you want to see a child as. Like, you want to see a child confident, emotionally regulated, nurturing, and a responsible adult. So my response is, as a parent, uh, should be conscious so as to reach these goals. Okay. There are some chat messages. Okay. Okay. Okay, you're free to give your responses. I believe that children have the right to live free from fear of the parents, physical punishment, shaming, verbal and emotional manipulation. No positive learning can take place in the state of fear. The other will only learn to rebel or escape. So a conscious, compassionate communication are essential ingredients to build a strong relationship with your children. So the whole idea of having a progressive paradigm is to connect with your child before correcting the child. Okay. So I don't believe very much in the traditional paradigm being applicable today. I have been working with children and teenagers and parents since last 14 and to 15 years. And I've seen the same patterns repeating, leading to suffering, leading to resentment, leading to cuts and, self-harm, and the parents being stressed, and, everything going on, everything going on a toss. So I have noticed that, this traditional paradigm of parenting that was all about correcting the child before connecting, our parents never had the time to sit us down, you know, talk about our feelings and emotions. Every, relative freely would interfere in deciding about the child. I'm sure it was with the majority, not all, but majority of the cases. We didn't even know back then what is mental health, a psychologist or a psychiatrist or even counseling. And these were alien terms. And, that did not exist. And if we think the way we were raised, the traditional way will work out with today's generation, we will only be stressed. Children will be frustrated and mental health issues will keep soaring. So no matter how much your ego resists this, what I just mentioned, you cannot resist the fact and the reality. Every generation is different, and we have to deal with them according to the time they are in and not what we were raised in for. The values that we were raised for do not exist now. So I believe that, we need to be conscious of our parenting, the way we are raising our children. So parenting is not a set of rules and regulations for parents to follow, that you need to robotically do this, avoid this. No, it doesn't work like that. It's not a parenting is not a set of rules and regulations. It is a set of beliefs about children and what they need to develop and thrive on. So using compassionate communication is about recognizing feelings and needs and knowing that behavior is it is an attempt to meet the core needs. I can't give you tools to make a change in your teen's behavior with rules and dominant principles, discipline. I don't believe that parenting is something done to a child. You have to develop a bond with your child, and that bond is based on respect and understanding. So you must be thinking that, well, the workshop was supposed to be on the teenagers. So why is she talking about parents? Take a deep breath. Okay? You need to focus on yourself before we talk about the behavior of your teens. Parenting is a relationship. It is a process of being in a relationship with the child. It doesn't use power to force someone to change. It's about learning how to be in a relationship with your child that requires that connection, honoring that connection and validating their needs. You're not a judge or a jury to control or evaluate and coerce your child. You are a teacher and emotional coach to your child. So I want you to speak to your teens as if, you would speak to someone you cherish and respect. And you do that after all. So technically, they don't belong to you. Okay, they have the belonging with you, but technically if you get deeper into it, they don't belong to you, because once they reach 13 and 14, they just don't want to listen to you. They have their minds to think, they want to think their own way. The more you try to convince them, the more you try to coerce them, the more you try to impose them, superimpose on them, there is clashes and conflicts happening. To so much so extent that there, these conflicts turn actually ugly. I have seen that in my, sessions where I have a teenage daughter and her mother sitting there. So there's absolutely no boundary of respect maintained, raising hand, and everything goes on a toss, right? Uh, so, I said that, technically they don't belong to you, and even your life doesn't belong to you. Had they belonged to you, they would be permanently with you. But this is not the reality. I said no matter how much hard your ego resists to what I'm talking, you cannot resist the reality and the facts. Okay, and that's why we need to change our traditional ways. That is not working with our children. And if we are conscious of that, you will understand that things are not working out. And why is it not working out? Okay, so because we think they belong to us, we are urged, we are tempted to control them and possess them and twist and turn them, and this gives rise to conflict. They are independent beings. They are free to choose who, but you have to facilitate the process of making a choice. You have to make them. You remember I told you the goal of parenting is to make your children responsible kids, responsible adults. You cannot keep giving them a secured and a protective environment. And that's where they don't learn to take responsibilities and be responsible for their actions. Okay? So I want you to change the way you look at your teenagers. Every generation of teens is shaped by the social, political, and economic events of the day. And today's teenagers are no different. They are the first generation whose lives are saturated by mobile technology and social media. Technology is making teens more lonely, anxious, and depressed, and is, undermining their social skills and even their sleep. So before we can respond, there is a space, and in that space, we have the power to make a choice. And I believe that there are two choices, fear and love. So these are the two basic emotions we have. And everything we feel, that is anger, frustration, dominance, control, all these emotions and feelings arise from fear. What fears do you have? What do you fear about? Openness, empathy, consideration, care, happiness comes from love. So when you react without awareness, you allow stress and fear and all the unconscious memories of your childhood to cloud your thinking and impede your judgment. But you are in the now, you are in the present. So you always have a choice. And in this present moment, we have this choice, and we are not concerned with the, past uh, upsets, past sadness, or the fearful, or, being fearful of the future. We are in the present, we are in the here and the now. So we can take time to model compassion in that space before we react. I told you there's this space of few seconds, and it's 8 to 10 seconds, and in that time, in that space, you can model compassion and concern and seek choices. and anger management. You can control your anger, and that all these things that you wish for your children to learn. So which response will bring him closer to you, and that will make him argue with you and backchat with you. So you need to show that patience and tolerance with your teen to teach them to be patient and tolerant. And the way you talk to them, they will reply to you in the same way because they want respect. Their identities are developing, right? They want to know who they are. Their ego is developing. So they want to be well, treated with respect. And it only comes when you treat them with respect. They start treating you with respect and respectfully, because that's how you are modeling. I said, practice before you preach, right? So it's you who will teach them about respect by showing respect to them. And trust me, it works wonders. So I gens, or the I generation, the Gen Z uh, that we have presently, grew up with, or rather are growing up with cell phones, have Instagram page before they started even their high school, and they do not remember a time before the internet. They spend 5 to 6 hours a day texting, chatting, gaming, web surfing, streaming, and sharing videos and hanging out online. So more than 2 hours a day raises the risk for serious mental health problems. So today it is, easy to call the generation of teenagers as oversensitive. They have feelings of entitlement and their baby. So though to some extent this criticism is not wrong, however, if looked closely, they have challenges that could be difficult for anyone. They are living in a completely different world as compared to few decades ago. There are several reasons that being a teenager is difficult or hard today. So let's consider these reasons. You may still keep on commenting in the chat box. Non-stop exposure. So I was talking about this Gen Z, Generation Z. So in this internet world, there is a constant stream of knowledge and information. And teenage represents the transition from childhood to adulthood. But this transition is not, as easy as it seems to be, or, it was few decades ago. At the time, as the, time has changed, so the way of living has changed. Teenagers are facing real concerns on a daily basis, as this is the most awkward growth stage of their lives. So while adolescence can be a trying period for both them and their parents as well, the home, does not have to become a battleground if both parents and the young people make special efforts to understand one another. To give your children your undivided attention when they want to talk. Don't read, watch television, or busy yourself with other tasks. Listen calmly and concentrate on hearing and understanding your children's point of view. Speak to your children as courteously and pleasantly as you would to a stranger. The tone of voice can set the tone of a conversation. So understand your children's feelings. Even if you don't always approve of their behavior, try not to make judgments, because it's a learning. They are also developing. Their mind is not completely developed because the frontal lobe that is responsible for reasoning and taking decisions and executing, it gets completely developed by the age of 25. So with this whole lot of, whirlpool that is happening inside them, all of a sudden change during the teenage years and adolescence that is happening inside them, and along with the developing brain, which is not yet developed. Okay, we need to be a lot more patient, right? What they speak and what they say is not intentional. At the end of the day, they want you. They want your approval. They want your appreciation, and they really look forward for that. So when they say something, you don't take it personally, because when you give back to them and when you get equal with them, it's then, your egos are hurt, and you don't want to mend it out, or you don't want to sort out things then. So while adolescence, I said that it can be a trying period for both you and your children as well. So understand your children's feelings, and even if you don't approve of their behavior, you need to understand. Once you show that understanding, once they feel that, you're connected with them, when you feel that connection, that bonding with them, they will listen to you. We generally, where we listen to people whom we like. Very simple is, just saying that, when parents approach me for counseling, like, ma'am, the thing they come up with is that, my daughter doesn't listen to me at all. So, ma'am, she's fond of you, so she will listen to you. So why that? Getting it? Even we, like, we try to ask the uncle or the neighbor or someone the child is fond with, or fond of whom. So you want that person to be connected with your child so that, he listens to him. So that, you want that adult to guide him, who the child is fond of. So that's how it works. So your child will not listen to you if he doesn't like you. So for that, you need to have that bond, and that bond is based on respect and a non-judgmental attitude and understanding. So avoid humiliating your children, especially your teenagers. They are very sensitive because their egos are developing. They take things very personally. So avoid humiliating your children and laughing at what may seem to you to be naive or foolish questions or statements, but for them it means a lot. So encourage your children to test new ideas and conversations by not judging their ideas and opinions. Let them come up with. They have this, they get argumentative. So let them have this, establish strong opinions. Let them, facilitate that process. Don't make them rebellious with this argumentative nature. That has to be, they need to use this argumentative nature during the adolescence to put forward their points across someone. That will help them when they grow up as adults. There are many adults who are still not able to put their points across. They're still not able to say a no, right? Because that depends on how we are conditioned. So by instead of, let them, in their conversations, don't judge them and let them have their ideas and opinions. Instead, by just listening and then offering your own views as plainly and honestly as possible. Let them listen to what they have to say. Love and mutual respect can coexist with different points of view. So this is how they learn to appreciate differences. They don't get overwhelmed by differences, right? So help your children build self-confidence by encouraging their participation in activities of their choice, not yours, right? So when you show that interest in, interest in things they like, the sports or, things or activities they want to be a part of, it builds their self-confidence, right? Instead of just criticizing and belittling them and shaming them. You are switching off all the ways of communication by doing so. So make an effort to commend your child frequently and appropriately. Too often, we take the good things for granted and focus on the bad. But every one needs to be appreciated. I'm very much sure that, there is something and there are many things in your teenagers that are worth appreciating. So we need to highlight that. And instead of, focusing on their mistakes and the negatives. Okay. So encourage your children to participate in family decision making and to work out family concerns together with you. Understand that, they need to challenge your opinions and your ways of doing things to achieve that separation from you, because you cannot make them have a parasitic relationship with you. You have to be prepared to, you have to start the preparation at this stage where you want your children to turn into responsible adults. And that will happen only when you start separating them, when you appreciate that separation and not get overwhelmed with fear and anxiety. Okay, because I've seen that many parents are very anxious about their teenagers not relying on them and not depending on them anymore. And out of that fear, the fear that I spoke about, they're getting angry, they want to get control, they want to control them, they want to, overpower them, they want to possess them. And in this, though your intentions are right, but your ways are not right, and things are getting out of hand. Okay, so understand that your child that I said that, they need to challenge your opinions and your ways of doing things. Um, So all this can be done when you understand the age, right? We often have that, unrealistic expectations from our teenagers. We want our teenagers always to be obedient to us, always to listen to us, always be the goody one, always to do things rightly, perfectly, and the perfect child. But if that is your idea of this age, of this stage of adolescence, then you will be, I'm sorry to say, but that you will end up in stressing out yourself. You need to understand that this age is combined with, this age involves your teenager to become a little argumentative. That's absolutely fine. This stage, they are mostly interested in present and have limited thoughts about the future. At least, this stage of 10 to 15 years, this stage is, they're more focused on the present. And when they are not mentally, I told you the frontal lobes are not mature, the frontal lobes are not developed. And when we keep forcing them, to know, you have to look about the future, they develop anxiety about the future. Getting it? And that's why we have, so many suicides and so many breakdowns in the adolescents when they are not able to achieve that expectation of their parents or live up to the marks of their parents, or get into the desired college or get into the desired stream. So they are mostly interested in the present. And in this present, you need to check out what are they good at. You need to develop their strengths. You need to facilitate the process that they identify their strengths. That is important. That is required 3 to 4 years ahead, where they will be deciding about their careers. So for that, this is the prerequisite where they need to understand their strengths and their likes and interests, right? They develop deeper moral thinking. They struggle with this, with their sense of identity. They start feeling awkward about themselves and their bodies. They realize that parents are not perfect. That's absolutely normal. They are not able to practice what, because according to them, the parents are not able to practice what they're preaching. Parents also, according to them, parents also make mistakes. And this increases the conflict. And this is, I'm not saying out of my mind. I have been, interacting. I told you I have interacted with so many teenagers and I've come up with the same premises from them. Increased influence of peer group desire of independence and tendency to return to childish behavior. So they want to be adults, they want to be like, treated as grown-ups, but at the same time, they want to be treated as kids too when they want, right? So they are still in that medley, they're still in that confusion state. Getting it's a completely confused state for them. So we don't have to add on to their confusion, okay? Because it gets overwhelmed. Having developmentally appropriate, they will test your limits. They will test the rules that you've set for them, okay, in their own ways. You need to be firm, okay, but firm, and we are bringing about discipline. Disciplining your teenager doesn't mean that you are criticizing, you are spanking, you are yelling, you are shouting, you are nagging, okay? Tendency to return to childish behaviors, moodiness, and they have this greater interest in privacy. Having developmentally appropriate expectations will help you feel less frustration, help you take your child's behavior not personally. Behavior is I said behavior is an instrument of communication. So the way they are behaving, it is an instrument of communication. It's communicating to you a lot, what they need, what is their need. Are they looking for attention? Are they wanting their time? What they asking for your time? Are they asking you to understand you in indirect ways? Are they asking you to nurture them and care them in indirect ways? Right? So it is their way of letting you know what they need. And without attachment, there can be no regulation. And without regulation, there can be no learning. The children start back answering and start, arguing more at this stage. So when children grow up, the problems we face with them also starts growing up. So when your child reaches teens, there are certain common problems, 4 common problems that starts showing up. Arguments increase, okay? Arrogance increases, their anger increases, okay? Uh, their attitude increases, and aloneness. They want to be alone because they are getting into arguments. You are not able to understand their point of view. They are not able to understand your point of view. That is not because of generation gap. That is because of miscommunication, not being able to communicate effectively. Okay, so because of arguments, there's anger coming up, and then since their egos have developed, you think that they have the attitude problems, and then so they want to move away from you. They want to be alone, right? So this is 4 common problems that every teenager goes through. Okay, so these 4 problems also increase as their age increases, especially during this adolescence phase. So there are 5 A's that you need to focus on, or you have to approach your children or your teenagers with 5 A's. First is accept. Okay, accept that your child can get upset with you. Accept that your teenager can argue with you. I told you the developmental, changes in your children, expected, the things, the age appropriate expectations that you need to have. Okay, it's okay if they argue with you. It's okay if they're upset with you. That is normal. It's a part of their growing up. Accept that, as they grow, they will develop their own opinions that will be different from yours. This is where I said, technically, they don't belong to you because they start developing their own opinions. They start developing their own thoughts that are different from yours. But we are so tempted to merge them with us, and and with that we want them to we want to control them, we want to overpower them, we want to possess them, and we want to just make them listen to us anyhow, right? But that, more than doing good, it does it's harmful. So you don't take it personally. So when you accept it, you will be less stressed. As our children grow up, as they grow up, when they were small, we used to appreciate and acknowledge their good things, and even little things we appreciated. Oh my, she started walking, and see how she's laughing, how she's giggling, oh, she danced on this. So every style of your child, every behavior of your child is acknowledged by a parent when the child is small. But as they grow up, we we reduce our appreciation, we reduce our acknowledgement, and that is what affects them, right? So when he or she is not appreciated, when his self-concept and identity, his ego is developing, right? And they're not appreciated. They're looking for that appreciation. They're looking for that acknowledgement. Irritation starts to build up. They become arrogant and they choose to be alone. And the appreciate work done by your child, work done by your teen, and not your teen. Like, if you secured a 90%, instead of saying, wow, what a brilliant boy you are, and I'm so proud of you. Instead of saying that, because this will again, build up attitude in him. So instead of saying that, you appreciate his efforts. That will be more long lasting. Like, instead of saying that, you could say that, wow, it's really commendable that you put in, this time you put in such a lot of hard work, and I appreciate you for your efforts. Getting it? The next is adventure. As they grow up, especially in this adolescent phase, they are more adventurous. They want to seek adventure. They want to seek excitement. They want to race. They want to take risks. They want to play the games they like, the battle royale, and the car racing games, the shooting games. So they want that adventure. They have that adrenaline rush in them. So if we don't do that with them, they will seek adventure with their friends, and that could go in a wrong direction. So we need to be equally adventurous and not sound boring, right? So we need to play games that they enjoy, like football or cricket, or go out on a long drive, and take them out for something, places where they enjoy. Advice, as I told you, advice given by someone they are fond of, it really works. It's because they have seen us fighting and arguing and nagging, and they're bored of us. So, it's like same as Ghar ki murgi dal barabar. So the same thing what we are saying, if it comes out from someone they like, they will very well, they will appreciate that, and very well they will accept that and implement that. So they need to be influenced by the one who admires, and look out for whom they admire, and you can take help from them. You can get them, also take to a counselor and get them counseled if, things are going out of hand. Ask. We have a tendency to give, gyan and advice and impose things. But at this age, as they're developing their egos, you need to ask them now. That makes them responsible. Get options from them. They feel important, right? So you're not sidelining them. You're giving them importance. And that is what they want. They want to be noticed. So ask him to choose from options. Like, instead of saying, yeah, it's 4 o'clock and still you've not sat for your studies, and you're not interested in studies. It doesn't work like that. Ask him that what time would you sit for studies, 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. Let him come up with the response. If he says something, some other time, negotiate with that respectfully. Have a direct communication with your child. Okay, and this works. Okay, the more you are regulated, your child, your teenager will learn to be regulated. Will learn to regulate his emotions from you. So you can only tell them to do and not force them to do. This age. It's very unfortunate that we are parenting Gen Z, and our kids are born in this Gen Z time. So this generation is born with low frustration, and I'm seeing that every child I'm noticing that they're born, they have low frustration tolerance, they are high on sensitivity, and amazing intelligence. It's a reality that cannot be changed, and we have to live with it, altering our ways. So here's the end of the session. I hope there will be many arrows that will be hitting me today because most of you may not agree with what I said. But I told you, no matter how hard your ego resists, that's the fact and reality. Yes. You ask your children, what your teenage sons and daughters, what they expect from you, and you'll be amazed to hear. They don't expect, fulfilling the materialistic things. They expect you to treat them with respect, love, appreciate, understand.
Very true.
Trust me on that. The
It's
children
really
have
true.
are very well aware of the expectations their parents have from them. But as parents, do we know what our children expect from us? It's very important to know that, so that this communication, it's not the generation gap that is happening. It's not at all generation gap. It is the communication gap. There is miscommunication, the way we are interacting with our children, because we're following that same paradigm, the way we were raised. हमारे ज़माने में तो we were done like this, but we never responded that way. You all are strange. This generation is strange. Getting it? So this is how it works. We need to change our ways. We've changed everything. We've changed our lifestyle. We've changed even the phones that we use. We've changed our wardrobes, our eating habits, everything. But we don't want to change that thing that is passing on from generation to generation. The beliefs about generation, the ways of parenting. We need to stop it there. And we have to adapt to this present scenario where our children are exposed. That's a very sad and bitter reality. But, they are exposed to this technology, and they're this first generation who's a Gen Z. And it will be more worse because after 10 years from now, our kids, 10, 20 years from now, our kids will be raising children who will be in the artificial intelligence, time. So that is going to be more pathetic. That will be more worse. So we need to change our ways in every time. We cannot hold on to and stick on to how we were raised. We have to change ourselves.